Hello.
Hey.
That worked.
Yay.
All right. Let's get everything switched back over to you. All right. What are we bilge pointing tonight?
So what I could do is I have the latest Thinkpad over here. Which I gave an editor's choice award to. So we could go with that.
Okay.
The new 8th Gen X1 Carbon. I have two models of it. One with a 4K display and one with a 1080. Um, so that's something I can show. Not the most interesting thing I've ever gotten, but because it's common, but it's good.
Well, good's important.
So
it's nice to get to talk about something that we like.
Yeah, that's good. I mean,
because we don't always get that opportunity. When it comes to reviews.
I've just sworn I'm not going to do a Raspberry Pi topic every week. And lately, that's where so much of my energy is going.
Yeah.
So that's I did this review this week, but I also have a bunch of Raspberry Pi stuff we did. Anyway, but is it okay if I mention in the intro part that I have this that I did the new show this week?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Definitely. So, let's promote the heck out of that.
Yeah, the feedback so far has been good.
Excellent. And if we at some point if we get either of these shows set up as podcasts, we can get it on TPN as well. Because I have full control over that.
It is set up as a pod. I do have it set up as a podcast now.
Excellent. Then I'll get it over.
Done.
Then I'll get it over to Todd.
What? Well, we can talk about this more later. I won't tell you anything, but I signed up. I actually have both shows signed up in different podcast hosting services. I just yesterday signed up which I should have done earlier in the week, because our company sort of has a relationship with them, but I'm just on a regular account with them, not a special account, with Audio Boom. Okay. And previously I had put the first show onto Anchor FM, which is totally free. And I could move it now that we signed up for Audio Boom, but I'm not sure if I'm trying to see if one is appreciably better than the other. So,
okay, yeah, I see Tom's Hardware already on Apple Podcasts. So, cool. I'll talk.
Wait, which one?
It just says the Tom's
Which show is on Apple Podcasts?
It says Tom's Hardware.
So that's the first one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't look for the second one.
Not the podcast. Because I just submitted the podcast last night. I got a weird message saying that it didn't validate for Apple. Whereas with Anchor FM, when you submit, they don't tell you anything. It just does it all behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Whereas Audio Boom makes you do stuff manually. But I think in a way that's good because you can see what the different descriptions are and things that are getting to different outlets versus Anchor, where it's all kind of behind the scenes and you don't have a lot of control over it.
Yeah, there's no transparency, and God forbid you leave, they've got control of your feed, stuff like that. So we'll talk about it after. Did you see the other topics?
Sorry, I didn't get to look them over.
No worries.
Let me do it right now.
FCC and mobile carriers, especially T-Mobile, trying to deal with robocalls. Microsoft.
Oh yes, they had that thing this week.
Microsoft is out of Microsoft is out of Xboxes because they discontinued the X. Obviously the Twitter hack, and then Peacock.
Dun, dun, dun. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Real quick before we get started. How much noise is this adding in the background? Do you hear a lot of background noise?
Did you turn it on?
I turned on a fan because it is hot in here.
Yeah, I didn't hear a difference.
You don't hear a difference. Great.
No.
Fantastic.
I like that microphone even better.
Great. Well, I just didn't know. So one more quick test because it's hot. It's the air conditioner. Make it worse. Going to air conditioning mode.
I can hear it a little bit, but no more than the noise that the old computer here in the studio used to make on my mic.
Okay.
So, yeah, no big
Very
deal.
good.
We're good.
All right. Cool. All right.
Well,
I'm ready to go then.
All right, then let's do this. I have to remember what to do. Record the studio. Record audio. Record Abram. Good evening from Plugit Studios in Largo, Florida. I'm Scott.
I'm Abram.
And we are here with episode 566 of F5 Live, refreshing technology for Sunday, July 19th, 2020. This show is a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. This week, the FCC's got your back, Twitter's giving away access, and Peacock's got some confusing problems. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Snapchat, through a podcatcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, or a myriad of other options, through our live stream platforms, livestream.com, Mixer, Twitch, Periscope, YouTube, or Facebook, or on our website, plughitslive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are two ways that you can do that. The first is you can join us live Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern by going to f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us during the show, give your feedback on the topics as we talk about them, or you can always subscribe at plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows, including F5 Live, Pilch Point, Plug Hits Live Presents, and more, and of course find all the ways that you can watch or listen. Obviously, this will be the last week that opening will contain Mixer, because it goes away this week, which is sad for those of us who loved it, but it is what it is. Anyway, Abram, how are you doing? It's been way too long.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, all right. It's been a busy time, but decent. I wanted to mention for those who who for some reason like to hear me talk, that there's more occasions every week now to hear me hear my nasal voice. You can we have two shows at my day job, Tom's Hardware, both of which are available as audio podcasts, but also as live streams like this show. We have on Tuesdays the Piecast by Tom's Hardware, which is a live show all about the world's most important computer, the Raspberry Pi. We had our first episode last week with special guest Eben Upton, who is the inventor and head of Raspberry Pi. And this week we will be having another special guest and talking through some projects and giving people some advice that they can use to actually try some things at home. So that show is on Tuesdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, and you can find that live on Tom's Hardware's YouTube and Facebook channels, or Periscope. And after the fact, you can also find it as an audio podcast in all the places that you would find audio podcasts, such as Spotify. On Thursdays, we have the Tom's Hardware Show, which is our general show about PC hardware, CPUs, GPUs, peripherals, all things that PC enthusiasts would care about, and that is at 3 p.m. Eastern, also on YouTube, Facebook, Tom's Hardware's YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope, and also available after the fact as an audio podcast. So, uh, lots of opportunities to hear me and my awesome colleagues and some special guests, which we're having every week. And we were really privileged to have Scott as a guest a couple of weeks ago. He was our first guest. So
It was a lot of
that
fun.
was really cool. Thank you so much for doing. Thank you so much for doing that.
Of course,
I'm trying
I had so much fun.
Everybody really appreciate having you. I'm looking forward to trying to get my show up to the level of quality that this show is. That my shows. I'm still looking into the best way to do background music, for example, and graphics, and have a cool split screen like we have here. But I mean, I have a split screen. It's just not as cool as the one that's here, like with the animation behind it. But it's these shows have been fun, and obviously we're looking to really take them up to the next level and give people special guests. We think both shows appeal to really important audiences. We're not aware of another weekly live Raspberry Pi show, although there's a lot of people making videos about Raspberry Pi, so it could be one that's another weekly show that I don't know about. But we're really trying to serve that growing audience.
Yeah, it's a big audience, and there's, especially right now, there's a lot of people who are wanting to experiment in that space because they've got extra time, and or they've got their kids at home, and it's it's an ideal opportunity to help them out.
What else is time for? What, do you go outside or something? Go see people, a restaurant? What the heck? I mean, we're focusing on what's important here, and that's projects.
I think, in fairness, I think only one of those is a viable option right now.
Yes, that's true. That's true. A lot of them are not viable options, but I mean, we have to get back to messing with this. But like, here's the robot that my son and I made a couple weeks ago with Raspberry Pi, with a Raspberry Pi 4 running it, and a camera, and nice. Like this has been a lot of fun, like, for us to do together, and we learned a lot. There's still more we want to do. We want to actually, well, he doesn't really want me to do this, but I want to do it, to put to replace this board here with one that'll actually do a pan and tilt with the camera. So instead of having the camera fixed on the front like this, I can have one that's actually movable.
Mm-hmm.
But that requires me getting rid of this board, which does some important functions with the motors. So we'll see. But we want to see if we can get it to do facial recognition and stuff like that. So we'll see. One of my projects, and I'll just leave it with this, but if anybody has ideas, as usual, I'm all ears. And I want to get a cooler background behind me, which could be used on this show too. I want to create an LED board behind me, like get maybe 2 or 3 long LED matrices, controlled by a Raspberry Pi, and I want them to show cool things while I'm on the air. Now, first of all, there's a question of what LED boards to buy and what controller to buy. I think I have some sense of it. I'm just looking for cheaper options right now because I feel cheap. But because like the really nicest LED boards are like 40-50 bucks each, and I probably have to get like 3 of them. But the real question that I have is, what should it show? I feel like it should show some kind of cool rotating data. You know, should it show like an RGB equalizer readout of what I'm doing of my voice or what we're doing on here?
That would be
Or
fun.
should it, I mean, that's just kind of RGB cool, but like, or should it show some type of statistic? Or should it show something to having to do with the show? Like how many people are listening? Or
cool
I don't know. Like, you know, do something cool with an API. So I'm trying to figure out what the cool data visualization. I want to have a data visualization behind me, is what I want. So
that's
and I have to find a way to like hang it on the wall. So whatever I get has to have some kind of like nail holes or whatever to nail into the wall.
That's a step up on the idea that we had, whose parts and pieces are all just off camera, where we were gonna build a wall using a bunch of LED pixels from Adafruit, and we were gonna play a video like what's running behind us on the video show. But very abstract with frosted glass over top of it, so there'd be natural motion to it, but it would all be kind of blurred out.
Yeah, I'm thinking of basically I'm probably going to get the LED boards and controller from Adafruit. So which by the way, and we don't need to go into this, but the head of Adafruit is going to be a guest on my show, on the podcast show, not this week, in a future week. We're waiting for them to be breaking some, you know, in the future they may be breaking some. They're always coming out with new products, so next time they come out with a really cool major new product, which could be happening, you know, in the near future, they'll come on and we'll talk about that. So.
I can see them. I can see them working on some new products while their manufacturing has been shifted for a little while. So, yeah, that makes sense. I can see that happening in the near future, too. I guess while we're talking about other projects, I don't know if I announced this or not, but a couple of weeks ago I joined the Geek News Central team as part of the GNC Week in Review show. So in addition to all the other many, many things that I do, if you just can't get enough of me, on Friday nights at 8 p.m. at GNC Week in Review, you can see me over there as well. So because you and I just have so much extra time to keep doing more shows, right, Abram? That's
Yep.
That's just the way this ends. It's a hobby.
But.
It's a hobby that gets a little out of control at some point. Just so you guys know, once you get into it, it can get out of control. So be prepared for that. But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So that's the important part. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, let's get into some news. This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new laptop, a tablet, a new Xbox, which we'll talk about a little later, games, or a whole lot more, you can get them at the Microsoft Store. And remember that current students and active military can save up to 10% on almost everything. To find out more about the deals that are available and the discounts, you can always go to f5live.tv/Microsoft. So we talked a couple of weeks ago about how the FCC would love to be able to help with stopping illegal phone calls, and they are somehow completely toothless in accomplishing it because they have basically never collected any of the fines that have been levied. So Congress has given them the ability to give some of the control to the carriers in a really great way. What they've done is they've created a safe harbor for carriers to be able to block calls from predefined bad actor phone services, whether they be VoIP services or cellular or whatever. They can be blocked entirely, which is a really interesting thing that they've had the ability to do, but they didn't have the legal protection in case there are unintended side effects. Now they do. So, say there's a VoIP service that's well known for allowing the we've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty calls. If the FCC contacts them and lets them know they need to put an end to it, and they don't, then Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile can actually stop accepting calls from that carrier entirely, which is obviously an extreme reaction. It's not the ideal situation, but if it's the only solution at a certain point, it's nice that they're going to have that capability to really.
So by carrier,
and that'll put pressure on.
What do you mean by what do they mean by carrier?
It can be anything. It can be any telecom. So it could be a VoIP service, which a lot of the scam calls come through custom VoIP services that are kind of built or run specifically for these things. And so, because they've got caller ID spoofing and all kinds of things built in that makes it really hard to use a tool like T-Mobile's new spam shield and stuff like that, because they're spoofing phone numbers, which is already against the law in the United States. But they do it anyway. And so if the FCC contacts them and says, your service is doing this, you need to stop, and they don't, then any other telecom in the United States can fully stop accepting calls from that carrier, which used to be full-on prohibited. So that's a big deal. Obviously, Verizon's not going to try and block T-Mobile. That's not
right.
Because
that's what would be weird.
Right, because yes, some robocalls do come through. I've got one in the office through a little custom board with a SIM card, so you could put in a T-Mobile SIM card, and you could get robocalls through T-Mobile. But the FCC is never going to threaten T-Mobile with a shutdown, so Verizon's never going to be able to block them. Right. But these little VoIP services that are set up specifically for this reason, the FCC is going to contact, and once they do and get ignored, the telecos can stop accepting calls.
It seems though like that kind of stuff would take a long time.
Maybe.
And these I'm sure that the callers are very adept at switching services and switching IPs to the point where by the time the FCC starts warning someone and give them time to respond and all that stuff, that it doesn't I'm not convinced it's going to be at all effective.
My guess is that this will help with the less sophisticated ones. It's probably not going to stop the guys from a couple of weeks ago who were making the medical calls. They kept changing company names and switching everything around, and my guess is it's never going to affect them. But these little so no, you're not going to stop getting, we've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. But the little one-off scams that run for short periods, run by Tampa's actually known for it. The IRS scammers, last year they arrested 19 people, and when you look at them, you're like, well, they're not technologically savvy. They're renting off of something. Those are the kinds of
Right.
things that this might help prevent. Maybe. It doesn't hurt, I guess, is the point. It's a step in the idea of being able to give some of the control to the telecoms, since the FCC has been completely ineffective in accomplishing anything. Maybe we'll see some results here. But we've also seen the telecoms start taking some other actions. T-Mobile announced this week, like I mentioned a little bit ago, their I think it's called Scam Shield or Spam Shield.
Yep.
Which is used to be a small service that you paid for. Now it's a big service that's free for all T-Mobile users, including the ability to get a Google Voice style virtual number that rings right to your phone. So, I think the telecoms are starting to feel empowered by this to accomplish things, and that might be a big deal. So, I don't know. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so, because the problem seems to actually be getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I'm getting more calls like that now than I used to, and
it's
they're
interesting.
getting good at it.
Yeah. In the beginning of the shutdown, everybody reported that there was a small cut. Like, they had noticed fewer calls, and now, after a couple of weeks of that, it went the other way, and it seemed to spike pretty hard. So, any little bit might help.
Yeah, I mean, it's what I don't know is, have they successfully gotten anyone to buy an extended car warranty this way? Has anybody ever fallen for it?
I don't know.
Like, why do they do it if nobody falls for it? There must be someone who falls for it, right?
There must be. It's the only explanation, but it's a crazy one. It's
and are
because
they like
it's
what
so
are they
bonkers.
selling you exactly?
I don't know.
I want to know what they're selling you exactly. Is it like what exactly are they selling?
Wouldn't that be a fascinating investigative report to do?
Yeah,
actually,
I would,
pretending to fall for some of these scams and seeing what the end result is.
Yeah, I have a coworker. Actually, this is one of the things that I really miss about being in the office. Right, it's not worth risking, my health and to experience. But man, so I have a coworker, doesn't work for Tom's Hardware, works for our sister site Tom's Guide, Marshall on or off. And Marshall's thing is, anytime he gets a scam call, he will like talk it through with them and kind of and argue with them about how they're lying or something, right? And I'll overhear this because he'll get it in the middle of the day, and we'll all be overhearing this conversation. Is, and he's like, "Well, obviously that's not true. You're lying about the IRS. How would you know that?" Like he'll call their bluff, basically, with these calls. So, I mean, that's when he gets a live person.
Sure.
Not a robocall.
That's
usually the ones I'm getting are robocalls.
Yeah.
Right now.
So
who's the person that's like, yeah, your car warranty? Oh, okay. I'm gonna hit a button or something to give them my money. I mean,
yeah, I don't madness. Know. I used to like to mess with the Microsoft scams. In fact, we used to have
the ones where they tell you there's something wrong with your Windows, or Microsoft calling you. Yeah, that's one that he would often get and kind of call their bluff. Like, well, if you're Microsoft, how come XYZ?
We used to have a Linux machine in the office, specifically for those calls, so that once we got to the point where they're like, oh, well, do this, and we can access your machine, and they'd access it, they'd be like, well, that what?
Oh, they didn't try to act like it was Windows.
Nope. We'd pretend like we totally believed them, go through the whole thing. Now they have access to the computer, and they're like, "What is this?" Well, this is Linux. That's Microsoft, right? we we figured if we
Yeah.
kept them, on the phone, then my parents were less likely to get the call and possibly fall for it.
That's exactly what Marshall says. That's exactly what Marshall says.
The last time they called me was when we were doing TEDx, and they called about 15 minutes before we opened the doors, and we were having technical problems. And I swore at them and threw my phone across the auditorium. I haven't heard from them since. But anyway, sometimes there are apparently things you can do to stop it, like throw your phone across the room. Anyway, like Abram said, there's no telling how effective or if it will be effective at all, but it doesn't make it any worse, so let's hope. This week's Pilch Point with Abram Pilch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and improve your streaming quality. Plus, it's available for almost all of your devices, and you can get a special price and a 31-day money-back guarantee, all by going to pilchpoint.live/PureVPN. All right, Abram. It's been a couple of weeks. What have you got for us tonight?
So, I have a little show and tell.
Yay!
A laptop that I just reviewed. This here is, for those who are viewing. Not, I'll describe for you. This is a Lenovo Thinkpad X1 Carbon, the latest model, Gen 8. They call it Gen 8 because it's the 8th gen of X1 Carbon. It's not the 8th. It's not using an 8th generation processor. The processor is an Intel 10th generation Comet Lake processor inside. So this is a really, really, though these are built for business, they're really, really excellent for anyone who likes to be productive. That is, if you if you're a student and you gotta, do research papers, if you're someone who, I don't know, does any programming, anything like that, this is a great machine for a few reasons. One, it's got an absolutely fantastic keyboard. Lenovo's are known to have, ThinkPads, I should say, not all Lenovo's, are known to have excellent keyboards. This one follows suit. Really, really good tactile feedback on this, and so you could type well. You could type faster, more accurately. The human part of the computer will be faster. Similarly, if you can carry something around more easily or balance on your lap better, that's definitely good for productivity. Or even if in these days you're not going anywhere, but you're going to your couch or you're lying in your bed, this is a really, really light, thin laptop. It is 0.6 inches thick, and it weighs 2.41 pounds. That is less by a lot than the in terms of weight than the Dell XPS 13, which a lot of people consider, and is also an excellent laptop. Consider sort of a gold standard for lightweight clamshell laptops. So other things to note about this ThinkPad X1 Carbon Gen 8. First of all, I'm showing you the model. I'm showing right now a model that has a 4K HDR display. It's hard to come through on the video here how good the color looks, but suffice it to say that it looks better than real life. So if you could, say, put a camera on the back of the lid, which they don't, but I wish they would, then I would sort of walk around life like this all day, because everything and everyone looks much more colorful on the HDR screen than they do in real life. So now I don't know if you want to configure it with the HDR screen. That's one option, because you will get less battery life. So with the 4K HDR screen, you get on our test, which is continuous surfing over Wi-Fi, 7.5 hours, which is not terrible. Um, it with For the 1080p screen, you get 10.5 hours. So, a significant bump from having a screen that is lower resolution, consumes less power, but is also actually really quite bright. So both of the screens are really excellently bright. The 1080 screen actually is better if there's sunlight coming through the window because it's matte. This you can probably see if you're watching, you can see there's some reflections on the screen because it's glossy. Glossy looks really nice on any display, but it also shows reflections and makes viewing angles worse. That's always the trade-off, whether you're buying a monitor or you're buying a laptop with a screen in it. Glossy makes colors pop more, but glossy also shows reflections more. So performance on this is good. It's not a gaming machine. It only has integrated Intel HD graphics, but it has up to 1 TB NVMe SSD that's pretty quick. It has up to a Core i7 Intel Comet Lake CPU, which the top model for this has 4 cores and 8 threads. And it has one thing that's nice is it has a whole bunch of ports. So even though this is super thin, it has 2 USB Type A ports on it and 2 Thunderbolt / Type C ports on it, and full-size HDMI out, so you can go out to a monitor or a TV without a dongle or docking station. It even has an old-style headphone jack, which most phones don't have these days. But it starts at $1,330 at Lenovo.com to get a model that has a Core i5 processor and 8 gigs of RAM and the 1080 screen. I certainly recommend if you were to buy it, that you get a model with 16 gigabytes of RAM, because you cannot upgrade the RAM. It's soldered onto the motherboard, so that's and I really think in this day and age, especially buying a computer that's going to last you a few years, 8 gigabytes of RAM is not enough. You should have 16. You can upgrade the SSD, however, so you could save yourself quite a bit of money by configuring it with a 256 gig SSD, and then spend $125 and buy yourself an aftermarket SSD and put it in, and you could save some money that way if you're comfortable doing that. So we have a full review of this on tomshardware.com, where we gave it an Editor's Choice Award. I do think that even though this is marketed as a business notebook, it is a great notebook for students, for anyone who wants to just get work done, get things done. It's not, while you could certainly watch movies on it, the audio is actually pretty good. I wouldn't consider that. It's certainly not a gaming notebook. And it's not a workstation. I mean, it's powerful enough to do most things, but it's not. You can do video editing on it, sure. You can do Photoshop on it, sure. But if you're a professional 3D animator or something, then you'll want a workstation, which they have a version actually called the X1 Extreme that is kind of a workstation. But this is, I think, a really great choice for a lot of folks. The ThinkPad X1 Carbon.
So the thing that I noticed while you were showing that off is how comfortable you were just like flipping it around in your hands, which means that the design and the weight must be really great.
Yeah.
At no point did you feel weird.
No. So that's a good. point. The fit and finish of it in terms of like, and this is something I've actually heard Lenovo talk about. This sort of tells you the difference between like a good, really, when we talk about build quality on a laptop, it's kind of intangible, right? You're like, oh, what's good build quality? Is anything a good? Here, I'm gripping it. If you see, I'm gripping it on one corner with one hand, and I'm not, it doesn't feel like it's creaking, and the body of it's not stressing under my grip, right? Whereas a lot of laptops, I feel like, hey, if I'm holding it by one corner and I'm not supporting the other corner with my hand, maybe I start to hear some plastic popping. This is made out of magnesium and carbon fiber and aluminum, so it's made out of really good quality materials. It's also mil spec tested, which means it's supposed to survive some amount of dings and drops and things like that. So yeah, that's another thing. Like you certainly there are other ultrabooks out there in this price range, or even perhaps a little bit cheaper. But when you get a business notebook like this, it is made to last, and it feels really, really solid. It doesn't feel, it's light, but it doesn't feel like flimsy in any way. So that's a very good point, and a good reason to invest in this. It's one of those intangibles that's really nice that you get with a high quality business notebook like a ThinkPad. The other thing, which personally I love, and I know not everybody agrees with me, but I will stand this every day, which is it has a track pointing stick, so that you can, in addition to the touchpad, so that you can navigate around the desktop using the little red nub. And for me, the little red nub is far superior to the touchpad because it's more precise. There's not as much like slippage or jumpiness, even though the touchpad on this one is really good. And if you're a touch typist, and really you ought to be, right? You can, if you have your hands on the home row, then you can move the mouse pointer around without doing this all the time and moving your hands.
Yeah, because your fingers are already there.
Right, and this becomes repetitive on your shoulder, right? So it's like, oh, I'm moving, right? So I feel like I work much more efficiently having the track point there. I find it much more accurate than a touchpad, and I miss it when I'm using a notebook that doesn't have one.
And you are definitely the captain that's going to go down with that ship if it ever goes down.
Yes, I am. Yes, and I know that. Full disclaimer: I know a lot of people don't like the pointing sticks. They think that they're old fashioned, but I wish that younger people who are getting in, would be introduced to them, and really shown that, hey, there's some great advantages to this, because it's still a superior technology. It's just that a lot of people have kind of been trained that a touchpad is how we do it today.
Right.
So, and Lenovo, for their part, by the way, real quick, Lenovo's not the only one to use pointing sticks. There are still Dell Latitude laptops that come with them, although the Dell pointing stick is not as good. And I don't know if the most recent models have them, but there have been HP EliteBooks and Toshiba. Wait, they changed their name. They're not Toshiba anymore. The company formerly known as Toshiba, Tecras, that had them. So, this is a technology that a lot of people consider old but just like those folks who swear by, like, you can drive better, they can drive better with a stick shift. I'm one who swears by my pointing stick.
Well, you mentioned you mentioned Toshiba, so I went to the Dynabook, which is their new name. I went to the Dynabook website, and one of the ones on the homepage has a pointing stick.
Yeah, theirs is pretty decent. Still not as good, but it's a little blue one. It definitely is better than the ones on Dell and HP, which are concave, whereas the Toshiba and Lenovo ones are convex. So yes, I know the shape of all my rubber domes. It's a small area of expertise, but I have it.
That might be my new favorite sentence from you, Avram.
Yes.
I know the shape of all my rubber domes. That is a bonkers sentence. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, all of the ones on their homepage have it now. So Toshiba might be leaning into it a little harder than they, or Dynabook may be leaning into it a little harder than they used to. But but Lenovo is the company that, like, when people think of a laptop with the track, it's Lenovo. That
yes. Fair to say.
Because we kind of all associated it with IBM laptops, and so IBM is Lenovo, so we're all there. Anyway, that's a weird knowledge for us to have, but I also think there's older technology. I miss physical keyboards on phones. But I love
exactly.
I love the
I miss the physical keyboards on phones too.
I hold my Palm Pre 3 from time to time and go, oh, I miss you. But I love the thing. Like you said, I've got a laptop in the office that the motherboard is cracked. Half the keyboard doesn't work because the motherboard's cracked because somebody carried it by the corner. And so the idea that this one doesn't feel like that's going to happen, that's so important because we catch ourselves doing it all the time. I find myself with this thing, with my Surface Book in my hand halfway all the time walking around the office. Now I usually do it from the hinge, but still, that feeling of strength and durability, that it'll survive something that theoretically is such a simple and normal thing for us to be doing is an important thing. And it's exciting to hear that you guys gave it an editor's choice.
Someone needs to tell my 8-year-old son not to carry his laptop by the screen.
Oh,
well, actually, the someone is me, but he doesn't listen to me. He has a laptop, which, full disclosure, is an old ThinkPad of mine that I gave him, and I guess that you can see the quality because he carries it around like this. I'm not even going to simulate this with a laptop because it's so horrifying. He'll carry it around like this, holding onto the screen with it open, and I tell him you can't do that, and he keeps doing it. I keep telling him, one day the bottom is just going to come off and he's going to be carrying a screen. But I guess that shows you how good the quality is. Because that ThinkPad is that I gave him is from, I think, 2014. So and I used it a lot.
So. As we tend to do.
Yes.
In our lives. Well, Avram, thanks for showing it off. I am I like it. It looks like a nice machine, and I'm gonna definitely check out the full review on Tom's Hardware. So, and as always, I look forward to seeing what we talk about next. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Razer. Get all the accessories you need to up your game on PC, console, or mobile devices. from Razer. Whether you're looking for a gaming mouse and keyboard like we use here in the studio, a webcam and light for your Twitch stream, or an entire gaming setup like the Razer Blade 15, you can find it all at Razer by going to f5live.tv/Razer. Now we know that there are big changes coming to the Xbox brand. There's no surprise to anybody there. We've got a new generation of console. We've got Project xCloud. But Microsoft has started the transition already, despite the fact that the new consoles don't come out until holiday 2020. In fact, the company has discontinued production of the Xbox One X and the Xbox One S All Digital Edition already. The Xbox One S traditional console will continue to be produced, but it may have created a problem. And that problem is they don't exist. Microsoft, Amazon, Best Buy, Walmart all show no inventory already. Just a matter of days after this announcement, show no inventory of any of those consoles. Best Buy shows no inventory of any Xbox consoles. Microsoft, Amazon, and Walmart all have the S in stock, but all of them say limited quantity. Now, of course, some of this has to do with the fact that demand for consoles has gone up because people are at home. So, warehouses are already pulled a little thin. But the idea that they would discontinue production while people are looking for hardware and there's already a shortage, unless there's a warehouse somewhere at Microsoft full of these things.
It's a conspiracy.
Wait, well,
it's a conspiracy.
Be prepared. We'll get into some more Microsoft conspiracy theory here in a second.
No, it's a conspiracy from big GameStop. It's a GameStop conspiracy. GameStop wants people to come into the store to save themselves from bankruptcy. So they have convinced Microsoft to stop making Xboxes for a while so that people will come in and buy used Xboxes from GameStop. I hope you guys hear the irony in my voice.
Yes.
but nevertheless, that could happen. But I don't think it's a deliberate effort on that doesn't help Microsoft at all.
No,
but
and
it
that's
helps.
the thing.
But if you want to know who benefits, it's GameStop. Maybe if they can stay in business.
Well, there's definitely that. But when it comes to them staying in business, the fact that when I was putting this article together, I didn't think to check their inventory, but I did think to check Walmart's, is not a good sign for their longevity. Honest to God, I didn't even think about them.
Well, GameStop, how are you check on a store-by-store basis, so it's a little hard to tell. And I'm thinking more along the lines of used Xboxes that they bought from that they refurbish.
So in that vein, on their website right now, looking at their inventory, only the limited edition Cyberpunk 2077, which hasn't come out yet, which would explain why nobody has bought it yet, is the only one that shows an option to buy it new. Everything else is only pre-owned and refurbished.
Right, but that's what Xbox. That's what GameStop's all about.
Yeah,
I think.
But they usually at least have new hardware. But here we are, they're in the same boat as everybody else. So it does seem to be a systemic issue that there are no Xboxes.
It's a good vote for them though, because Walmart doesn't sell used stuff.
Not themselves. They do through their third party sellers.
Through the website. through the
And the
website.
third-party sellers are selling refurbished ones for $550.
Here's the interesting question though. Like who is that desperate for an Xbox right now? Like
Right.
I get it that people are spending more time inside. Um, good, but uh, the like didn't if you were into Xbox, wouldn't you have already owned one by now? Uh, why what would make you really want one now? Uh,
Um, I, it's a fair question. Um, and I don't have an answer for it, but there does seem to be some demand for it. I see it in some of the gamer groups that we're a part of. There's people who have been looking for them, and they've turned to the Facebook Marketplace because they can't find them in retail.
now,
Now, granted, in the
if
Facebook
I could,
Marketplace, you'll get it for even less than the 199. 199. GameStop has the original Xbox pre-owned for 199. That's bonkers.
yep,
Sorry.
yep. Well,
But that's
I think
making
I think I gotta I think I gotta take mine, which we never play anymore, and which we never play anymore, and put it on eBay or something. Like we just
definitely
got
better
it
than
at
the
well,
$18 in store credit you'll get from GameStop for
yeah. I
it.
mean, it was passed down down to me for free through someone at work when I said, "Oh, I think my son and I might like to play it." Then like a couple months, but when we got it, my son was really big on like, "Oh man, I really want to switch. I want to switch. I want to switch."
Hmm.
As soon as he got the Switch, he's never touched the Xbox again. And and I don't really play on console unless I was playing with him. So we really haven't gotten after we had like a few months there where I was buying games for it and using it. Now not. So I don't know. Maybe I should. If I weren't worried about social distancing, I'd head out to the street corner with a big coat. Just, anybody want an Xbox? Selling Xbox?
Oh, that would be funny. Uh, so that's not the only change that we're seeing right now from the Xbox brand. They made the announcement that Project xCloud. We knew from November of last year that xCloud would be included in the Game Pass family. We didn't know what that meant until this week, where they announced that it would be part of Game Pass Ultimate as a free edition, which is a pretty big deal because Game Pass Ultimate is already a deal for gamers. It's $15 a month, and it currently covers $30 worth of stuff because it's got Game Pass PC, it's got Game Pass console, and Xbox Live, all of which are $10 a month. But that might be changing too, which could explain why Project xCloud is coming to Game Pass Ultimate, because Microsoft has stopped selling 12-month subscriptions to Xbox Live Gold. The speculation is that when the new hardware launches, Xbox Gold will become just the standard. And so buying 12 months worth of it now would just annoy people to end up in a couple of months getting the rest of it for free anyway. So so they've discontinued the 12-month, and my guess is that we will see the 3-month and 1 month go away as we get closer to the launch of the Series X and the Series S, which they have not announced, but almost certainly exists, as there are photos of it. But yeah, so even Xbox Live is seeing some changes. It's gonna be some big changes for the Xbox brand, but all of them seem to be, other than the discontinue of the console, which is bizarre. All of the all of the xCloud and Xbox Live stuff looks like, if it goes the way it looks like it will be a win for consumers. So I guess fingers crossed on that one, that Xbox Live just becomes a free service and you get your games through Game Pass, because that'd be a win for a lot of people, and it would explain why xCloud's coming to Ultimate. Now, can you get it solo? We don't know. They have not announced any kind of solo access for Project xCloud or what its published name will be. I would not be surprised if it was called something like Game Pass Streaming or something like that, and becomes the third corner of the Game Pass Ultimate triangle when Xbox Live Gold kind of goes away, because it's going to offer, at launch, it's going to offer over 100 games available. If you're an Ultimate subscriber, you're going to get over 100 games available to stream, play stream for free, which is a pretty big collection. It's way more than Stadia has, and if you're an Ultimate subscriber, you've already got it. So that's pretty cool, and I've been using it. It works really well. I'm super excited about that, and I can't wait to see it actually out in the wild. This week's news from the tubes and F5 Live is probably powered by Riff Tracks, make fun of movies, or let these guys do it for you. Mike Nelson, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy, the former stars of Mystery Science Theater 3000, are back and doing what they do best, creating commentaries for Hollywood blockbusters and B-movie oddities. It's like watching a movie with your funniest friends. They do full-length features, short films, and live events. They are bringing the live events online this year, and their first one is going to be Season 1, Episode 1 of Stranger Things. That should be a ton of fun. To find out about the event, the full-length features, and the short films, you can go to f5live.tv/rifftracks with an X. Obviously, by now, so long as you have not been completely hiding from the rest of the world, in which case you're probably not watching us, you have heard about the Twitter hack that happened on Wednesday. It was big, to say the least, not in scale, but in scope. Only 130 accounts were compromised, but those 130 accounts pretty much cover all Twitter subscribers in one way or another. It was everybody from Barack Obama to Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, all of the big subscribed accounts all got hit and tweeted out cryptocurrency scam. Everybody knows that. We're not going to talk about the details of that. What I find interesting is the way that it happened. Twitter announced yesterday that they had gotten to a particular level of their investigation, in which case they were comfortable releasing some information about what happened, and essentially through social engineering, the hackers were able to convince Twitter employees to give up their corporate credentials so that they could log into Twitter's internal employee management system, which definitely sucks. Like, that's impressive. If you don't know what social engineering is, it's essentially using social cues to be able to convince somebody that you are part of their circle, whatever that means. In this case, the circle was an employee of Twitter, and that you needed help, and they gave information. If you want, I know this is going to be a weird suggestion, but there's a great song from the nerdcore rapper Whitey Cracker called Social Engineering that explains it way better than I ever will be able to. So go listen to that. That'll explain it well. In fact, he covers probably what happened here. Anyway, so The real issue that I see here is that without access, without verification of the people, Obama, Biden, Bezos, these hackers were able to compromise their accounts anyway, which is interesting because, say, when I call GoDaddy, I have to verify who I am before they have access to my account. When I call my cell phone carrier, I have to verify who I am before they can make changes to my account. Why is Twitter different? Are there internal tools so lax and open that any employee can go in and just compromise an account? That seems terrifying to me. What about you, Avram?
I mean, I'd like some more details about how they were able to compromise these accounts. Um, I don't know. People treat Twitter. I mean, man, the level of importance. I have to admit, I read Twitter a lot, so I'm guilty too. But people treat Twitter as if it's like one of the most important things in the world. And I guess, given the type of conversation that happens on Twitter, that you have, world leaders and the president using Twitter to, in some cases make policy. Uh, I guess, I guess it is that important, but I mean, it's a social network. It's not someone's bank account.
True.
Uh, I mean, granted, I wouldn't want somebody hacking in and saying all kinds of embarrassing things using my login.
Sure.
But I mean,
But
maybe their standards are not as for security are not as high as your banks.
or
Maybe
even
they
my
shouldn't be.
or even my email provider. Uh, that's the kind of thing that surprises me, is that you've got high profile people using it, in some cases to announce policy decisions, which is a whole different bizarro world topic. Um, but their employees don't have to verify the person before they can make changes to the account, but I can't. It takes me 8 steps to log into my email if I forget my password. That's where it
Yeah,
seems strange. It seems like some sort of a phone pin or something to be able to lock the account before an employee can just walk in and start making changes. If GoDaddy
yeah,
can do it, it seems like Twitter should do it.
yeah. No doubt, it makes no sense.
Yeah, it definitely makes no sense. And it's a little worrying, but it's worrying on top of worrying because Twitter's public perception has been decreasing. There's been concerns over some of their policing policies. The same thing that everybody gets hit up with. YouTube and Facebook have all come under fire for inconsistent policy upholdings and things like that. But to add this on top of it, not great. And it's funny, if you look at their stock price for this week, you can see when the hack started, and you can see when they finally responded to it several hours later, because the stock price has this huge dip and then gain. You can literally see where the problems started and ended, looking at their stock price, which I thought was fun because we were looking at that on Friday during the show. But these types of things tend to end in policy changes for companies and organizations. Hopefully, as the investigation continues and they figure out exactly what hole was used to bypass whatever security is in place, they will be able to patch it and fix the policies and hopefully retrain to avoid social engineering attacks, because they're usually pretty easy to spot. But obviously in this case, not. So, you know, for the hackers, good on you. That was pretty impressive. You came out of it with about $120,000 in Bitcoin. But Twitter needs to look into this and get a little better.
Yeah, it's not the negative publicity that they need right now.
As users are already leaving for clone services. Not that the clone services will ever succeed the way Twitter has, but because it wasn't until Facebook, clone.
I would love to see a social network run by in the same manner that Wikipedia is run, where it's more of a public service. But
it's an interesting idea.
But I don't know if we'll ever see such a thing.
Wonder how you'd set up that moderation. That would be interesting. It's fascinating.
Somehow they manage on Wikipedia to keep things usually factual.
Yeah, they've got editors and stuff that watch for bizarro changes, and they lock things like the African elephant when Steve Colbert tells the world to change it, that it's no longer endangered. I think that article's still locked for editing. That was like 17 years ago.
But they're really on top of that kind of stuff. So
they are. They reject stuff real quick at Wikipedia now. It would definitely be interesting thought experiment to kind of consider how something like that would work. This week's DRM Not Included in F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. We all know that Prime offers free shipping on millions of products, but that isn't all you get. In fact, for your $99, free shipping might be the smallest of your benefits. You get free music with Amazon Prime Music, free TV, movies, and documentaries with Amazon Prime Video. You get free games and a free subscription with Twitch Prime, and a whole lot more. You can learn more about the features, get quick links to them, and get your 30-day free trial if you're not already a subscriber, or you can buy it as a gift. And all of that is available by going to f5live.tv/prime. All right, it's finally happened. We've been talking about it for a while. NBC's launch of Peacock happened this week to mixed reception. A lot of people were really excited about the service because it brought together a lot of content that either hadn't been streamable or had been kind of all over the place, and it brought it under an umbrella that is free, or freemium, as the case may be, because there is a premium tier. But under the free, there's all kinds of stuff you can get. Modern stuff like Friends and 30 Rock, and old stuff like Murder, She Wrote and The Carol Burnett Show, all is ad supported, just like you would expect if you were watching it on television. But there has been some confusion, both from consumers and seemingly from NBC itself. On the consumer side, there's some shows that you may not expect, like Hell's Kitchen, which is not an NBC Universal show, and in fact is a Fox show, which is owned now, I guess, by Disney, which owns Hulu. So you would expect it to be available on Hulu and not on a competing service, but it's there, kind of. The first season is missing almost half the episodes on Peacock, but not on Hulu. So why even have it if you're not going to have all the episodes of a season? That's weird. And there's been a lot of complaint about a lot of ads. But if you've ever used NBC's website or streaming app, you will know that Peacock is showing not nearly as many as NBC does. But speaking of NBC, the company doesn't seem to know where Peacock fits in. And that was evidenced really quickly on Thursday, the day after the launch, when they ran their first ever consumer facing, viewer facing upfront presentation. The upfronts are where the networks show their new stuff to advertisers so that advertisers know where they may or may not put their dollars for the coming season. And obviously Peacock was a big part of it because at least part of NBC Universal believes that Peacock is a big part of their future. And so they produced a special 30 Rock episode as part of their upfronts. Now, that ran on NBC at 8 p.m. in some markets because some of the affiliates decided not to air it, but that's a whole other problem. And then if you're familiar with the way broadcast works and the streaming services, usually the next morning, 5 a.m. tends to be the magic number. That content is then available on the streaming service. But it wasn't. That wasn't available on Peacock, which was weird because it talked about Peacock a lot. However, it was available on NBC.com.
Yeah, I was just checking this out just out of curiosity, and there's a bunch of things that are available on NBC.com for free that are not on Peacock.
Yup.
Why does NBC.com still exist?
Right.
Shouldn't they merge the two of them? Like, for example, showing my age, of course, but I sometimes like to go back and watch the shows of my childhood, which I have forgotten what happened. And NBC.com has the $6 million man. Peacock does not. So I'll be sticking with NBC.com.
With 50% more ads, but at least you get to watch it, which you can't on Peacock. So, plus, there's an Xfinity branded streaming service out there, which is also owned by Comcast. So Comcast has 3 streaming services that are all different. I do believe that the Xfinity branded one is going away because Xfinity subscribers got access to Peacock before the rest of us. So I do believe that one's fate has been sealed. But theoretically, there are 3 streaming services all owned by Comcast. Plus, they still technically have a 30% stake in Hulu. And the consistency is all over the place. Granted, they are walking out of Hulu and giving full control to Disney. And I get that. And so you're going to start seeing some stuff back down from Hulu as contracts expire. And that's fine. I get it. They're all going to move to Peacock. Got it. But why do they still have 2 competing services? It was the question that we asked when they launched the Xfinity service and they were still a majority owner in Hulu, why they were competing with themselves there. And here they're doing it again. Why are Peacock and NBC.com, which, by the way, NBC.com has a tab for Peacock on it. So the same site is competing with itself, which is bonkers. I don't get it. And why did NBC.com get the 30 Rock episode that talked so much about Peacock before Peacock did?
I think the thing is, everybody, look, why does, obviously variety is the spice of life, and a lot of publishers will own similar, similar services or similar outlets or somewhat similar properties,
Sure.
right?
Sirius XM owns both Pandora and Stitcher, both of which are podcast publishers.
Right. Now, not saying it makes sense, but then you have the situation where okay. It but then you have the situation where it's just getting crazy and it's getting confusing from a branding perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I think I also wonder, and I get why they do from a business perspective, why there's HBO and HBO Now and HBO Max. Like, why does HBO have more than one streaming service?
Because AT&T is trying to figure out how to be a media company.
Why isn't there just one HBO? NBC, it's not like, I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, but I can't imagine that NBC.com was a huge revenue generator for them.
I can't
They weren't
imagine.
doing a lot to push it.
Yeah.
Not doing a lot to push it. I mean, it's some interesting, nice free content if you want any of those archival shows or even newer NBC shows. So
But a
it
lot of
was,
them on NBC.com, a lot of it required that you have a cable subscription.
you have cable, right? Yeah.
Right. Peacock
So
doesn't have that requirement, which definitely separates it from its NBC.com sister. But still, does NBC Universal not have the streaming rights to? It's weird.
right.
I don't know. It's definitely confusing, and if it's confusing for me, it's got to be confusing for standard streaming consumers. For you and I, we literally live in this space. This is one of the topics we talk about every week, and even we're looking at it going, I don't know.
Yep.
That can't be good for my mother, who was also signed up for Peacock and was surprised that the 30 Rock special wasn't there on Thursday.
No doubt.
And what's she going to do? Well, it's not there like everything else. They must not be getting it. No, they did at 9 p.m. Why 9 p.m.? I don't know. But that's when it showed up. What's that? 16 hours after NBC.com got it, even though it talks about Peacock as its primary thing, so much so that the affiliates wouldn't air the special because it was talking about something that they felt was a threat to them so much.
Yeah.
Because my NBC affiliate here didn't air it at all. They reran a Hurricane special instead. So I don't know. I think somebody in the streaming department of NBC Universal needs to have a meeting and go, all right, what are our priorities, and let's lean into it. I think Peacock is the priority, and so I think it's time to lean into it. That's my personal opinion.
Yep.
Well, that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us live. We had some people watching us on YouTube and on Twitch. We appreciate it. I apologize to Nick, who commented a couple minutes ago, or about a minute ago. Thanks for joining us on YouTube. If you didn't join us live and would like to in the future, you can always go to f5live.tv/join us on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, and chat with us in the studio. We always love to hear from people. If you can't join us live, that's okay. Plughitslive.com/subscribe. You can see all of our shows and all the ways to subscribe. In addition, Tom's Hardware has its 2 new shows, the Tom's Hardware Show and the podcast, which can be found on the Tom's Hardware Facebook, YouTube, and podcatchers, right?
Periscope.
Periscope
yes,
as well.
And also on everywhere that podcasts are found, such as Spotify, Google, and hopefully, if they've approved it as of this moment, which I don't know for sure, Apple.
Well, I know the Tom's Hardware Show is, because I've already subscribed. And
Podcast I put through last night, so I'm not sure.
So by the time you're seeing this, maybe it's already there. And of course, you can also find me Friday nights at the GNC Week in Review. So Avram and I are everywhere. You can't avoid us. So definitely check out all the fun things that we're up to. And I guess with that, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we will see you guys back next time. Ciao.